So I had all these job applications that I sent all over Washington, D.C., just various government agencies. And I finally got a letter back, and I was so excited. At that time, I was living in the dorms, and so I got in my room and I sat down, just very excitedly opened the envelope and opened the letter. And you know how the government sends out forms? It's not a personal form. It's just they send out so many letters to so many people in the U.S., so they just have all these automated forms that they have, and they just check the appropriate boxes. And it was one of those kind of automated forms. It was a notice of, it was a notice of acceptance. So I had my letter, and I had 2 columns. Oh, it was an eligibility notice. And so I was looking at the 2 forms. The first was eligible people. The second was non-eligible. So I looked down through the list of eligibility, and my name wasn't there. I found my name on the non-eligible list. And it said, due to medical reasons. And I thought, what in the world could that mean? You know, I looked at my feet. I could wiggle my toes. I could move my feet. I could move my legs. I breathed fine. You know, I could move my head fine. My back was fine. My arms were fine. My chest was fine. Excuse me. Everything was fine. When I look at my mouth, my throat, my nose, my eyes, my ears. That was the first time I was in a state of shock, and it really scared me. It was because I was deaf, you know. And that's crazy. I had worked and worked so hard to prove in 3 years of high school with no interpreter, and then 4 years in college with no interpreter, full of hearing people all around. And I was working so hard to prove to the world that I could. And then the hearing world says, no, you can't. 7 years of working so hard to prove that I can. And then the world says, no. You know, that really scared me. It made me feel insecure. And as I held the envelope, I looked. And on the envelope, in the corner, it said, hire the handicapped. I felt, well, how duplicitous is that? They're saying, hey, we hire handicapped people, and then they reject me because I'm deaf, even though I've proven that I'm very capable. You know, I graduated that time. My wife had just had a boy, I remember. First boy, that's right. And we went to live in the Washington, D.C. area, in Baltimore, with the in-laws. And you know, so I got all of these letters from the government agencies saying that I was turned down. I was rejected because I was deaf. And there's a little note at the bottom of the forms that would say, you must be able to hear with at least one ear, with or without a hearing aid, to be an engineer. You know, it was right there in black and white. And that was back in the 1960s. So, you know, I just felt very depressed about that. And just so happened, my wife had a friend whose cousin was close with a senator. Back then, it was a Senator Lyndon B. Johnson. He was a senator at the time. So my friend talked with their mother and told them about my case and my situation, and talked with Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson heard about my case. He wanted to see my application. So we gave it to him, we passed it along. Lyndon B. Johnson passed it along to his secretary, that was in the Navy Department, and put a note on it saying, decide on his ability, not his disability. So that woman sent me personally a letter. Can you imagine that? The federal government sending me a personal typed 3-page letter asking me to go for an interview. So I showed up for the interview. You know, there was a person who was an engineer himself, and it just so happened his aunt was deaf, so, you know, there was support in that arena. So I filled out the application, you know, waited 1, 2, 3 weeks, finally got a letter saying that I should go, but understanding that it would be on a trial basis, so I went. Met with the director of personnel in the office there, in the Navy Department, sat down with him. It just so happened that he had a deaf sister. You know, so we talked about how the interview went well, you know, and so then they sent my letter over to the Civil Service Commission you know, so they can